Hey there, boils and ghouls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. How low can we go? With 44% on Metacritic. I was like, what? I was thinking about maybe putting a sound effect there. I definitely hit a roadblock. If that doesn't give away what movie this is. 1988's Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
I can't believe you just decided to wing that. You were like on a tightrope up there, fitting for the circus.
I was, which is also scary. Don't say tightrope, because then I think of heights. I think of free solo. My hands start to sweat.
Yeah, no,
and I got to hold my phone for these notes. But before we hop into that, if you're listening to this on Facebook, and I know most of you are, consider supporting the page. Facebook actually just gave us like a Patreon-style supporter type thing. And right now, if you sign up for, I think it's the next 10 days, for every sign up we get, Facebook's going to give us an extra $10. It's like a weird bonus program. So for $2.99 a month, come hang out with us. There's a lot of perks in there where you get to help guide the show. The more our listeners guide the show, the better it is. In fact, this movie we did right now is because of what y'all voted for.
That's right.
I secretly wanted it to win because I like we're both fresh to this movie.
Yeah, it's astounding how little I knew about this movie going into it.
It is amazing. So go over there on Facebook, Hollow Weekly. There's a very awesome video at the top of our page with a very handsome, distinguished young man.
Yeah, slightly threatening.
Slightly. He's very good at beating death in chess.
That's true. Congratulations.
I'm very good. I mean, I'm sorry, you're very good at that. Go check it out. It's really fun. There's a lot of cool perks in there. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to have some of Facebook's money through this bonus program. So,
very true. Come into the Big Tent.
All right. So for those of you who haven't been living under a rock, who have seen this movie, Killer Klowns from Outer Space, 1988, directed by Steven
Chiodo.
I had it right when I was writing it in my head, and then when I have to say it for the show, my brain
You're on
was
the
like, we actually watched this as of recording on Earth Day. Today's Earth Day. Did you know that?
I did.
It's streaming on HBO Max, and the quality is very, very good.
It looks amazing
on there. Quick synopsis.
I can't wait. Where'd you go for this?
No. I started getting it from like the internet, like because when I try to like wing it, I usually miss some very key details.
This will be interesting.
Probably not. When teenagers Mike and Debbie see a comet crash outside their sleepy small town, they investigate and discover a pack of murderous aliens who look very much like circus clowns. They try to warn the local authorities, but everyone assumes their story is a prank. Meanwhile, the clowns set about harvesting and eating as many people as they can. It's not
spoiler.
That comes like 10 minutes into the movie. It's not until they kidnap Debbie that Mike decides it's up to him to stop the clowns' bloody rampage. It's not really that bloody of a rampage, though.
But it's glorious looking. The visuals are great.
This movie. Okay.
So wait, I forgot. There's something. This is 0.5 in order. I'm just going to say it now so you don't forget because it wasn't in your order. And we have to talk about the police guy. We got to talk about this guy. All right. But we'll do that later. But do the order. But I just don't want to forget.
We got to put a pin.
He'll come in. Yeah. Okay. Proceed. Because it would be criminal to not.
No, he went through.
Mooney is glorious. Okay.
He went through Korea. He ain't dealing with this shit.
That is just the most amazing thing in all of cinema. Okay.
He was just how much of an asshole he was. Like that dude came out the gate like flooring it.
Are we doing this now?
No. It's hard to pull away from him because we have such a high appreciation for this asshole.
Because they like mixed a quarter quint with like all of the asshole from First Blood, like the cop that causes all the trouble and beats up Rambo, right? Like they just like put it all together and thought it was some fun package, and they were gonna unleash on us, and it's just unreal what goes on there. All right, but let's do the order.
Order in the court.
Yes.
All right, first one. How we got here?
Yes.
Because you're asking yourselves. This is a horror podcast.
Yes.
What do you mean this is the first time you've seen Killer Klowns from Outer Space?
Unless you're like 14 years old. How have you not seen this?
Yeah, I I never got around to it. I was always familiar with it. Like it's one of those movies where you just can't forget the visuals. And we always talk about like the memory test of like if you can remember where you were and some like what it's the area the weather shit like that. I remember,
like so for example the movie Deliver Us from Evil with Eric Bana. What did the demon look like? You don't know. No one knows. You also a lot of you saw it, but no one knows.
I forgot what Eric Bana looked like.
Exactly my point. Okay, but these clowns, once you see them, go.
Yeah, I remember like going to my grandma's house and the Sci-Fi Channel being on, and we saw these clowns. We all just got kind of freaked out, but we were like also enamored with it too because like there's like a silliness to it. Like the design of the clowns are so out of this world.
The design of the clowns are out of this world, but I would argue that the clowns are the second most serious thing in the movie behind like the main police protagonist because everyone else is like the ice cream guys, the Terenzi brothers. Like, are you kidding? Like the clowns are going about like a plot trying to get it done. It looks crazy. It sounds crazy. They do unnecessary flair while they murder you, but they're trying to get it done. I don't know what the humans in this movie are doing at all.
They're just watching the clowns run amok in their drugstores.
Like watching shadow puppetry on the walls.
Like that one guy. So how did we get here? You never saw the movie yourself.
So you were familiar of it, but you hadn't you remember the visuals, but you didn't know much else about this one. I hate clowns. Right. I hate horror clowns. So alien horror clowns don't bother me, which is weird. That means I should have just watched this movie. But I usually, if I'm splitting the difference, I err on the side of not watching clowns, right?
Right.
So I made it through Terrifier because I really liked the visual of that design. So I was like, I'm going to give this, I'm going to give this a chance. But I don't do the clowns, and I'm not a horror comedy person, and I assumed this was going to be like really goofy, but this movie is so much better and does all kinds of stuff that we're going to talk about later in a minute that is like transcends goofiness. So I just missed it because I don't like clowns, and I assumed it was just going to be very, very goofy and not what it actually is.
All right, so that's how we got here. After watching it.
Yes.
One of the very first things I think we both thought. Actually, one of the things I thought once the movie
after
started,
watching it, like 90 seconds into it.
And once we loaded it up, and the one thing I was sort of worried about was whenever it's like an 80s film on a streaming service or just like an 80s film in general, I always kind of wonder like what the quality is on streaming because sometimes it really varies. The one on HBO Max, it looks really, really great.
It does.
And with that, the second order of discussion, this movie still holds up.
Crazy good. It's because it was so sure of what it was and what it wanted to be, and when your desire is that close to your purpose, like your goal, like when you match up that close, it like Tom Brady's like life looks like what he wants it to look like. Right. This movie acts the way exactly, like projects to the audience exactly what it wanted to do at the entire time. It's impeccable control. I know it looks goofy at parts and like whatever, but it knew that. You could tell, right?
Yeah, there's no like second guessing.
Nope. It was 1,000% committed at every point to what it was doing.
I was thinking when I was like setting up the mics to record this of like one of my favorite taglines is the most fun you'll have being scared for Creep Show. And even though this movie isn't, there's a few scenes that are pretty intense.
The puppeteering of Mooney
that was
creepy and awesome.
that was great, but it's also like a ton of fun.
Oh yeah, insanely good.
And like there's just not a lot of movies nowadays that have as much fun as this.
Right.
Granted, this is kind of ridiculous, the killer
course.
clowns and stuff like that, but like the fact that like this movie from 1988 that like we sort of knew about but haven't really watched, and usually like it took me a long time before I actually finally watched Frankenstein and Dracula because I always just liked the idea of them better,
totally.
And after watching this, like, it's funny, both of those movies proved me wrong. They're both still amazing movies I was seeing. Right? I got to see them in like a packed theater, which was optimal. But Killer Clowns, same thing. Like I thought maybe that would be the one movie where I know the designs of it. Like I know they even had a maze of it at Universal Horror a couple years ago, and I thought maybe that would be the one movie that horror fans just love because of how ridiculous it is.
Sure.
like the design of them, like they're just gonna give them a pass because you don't see that anymore. But like the movie itself is still holds up. There's we were talking earlier is anytime we watch like an 80s horror movie, you always assume there's going to be some kind of like Porky's or Revenge of the Nerds weird kind of
they're going to drop
that
the ball. There's going to be something really cringy.
Yeah, so that doesn't age really well.
Yep.
This movie just skirts all of that.
Well, not only does it skirt all that, all the decisions it's making are sneaky good. I remember thinking halfway through this movie that like the lazier Thor movies should just be ashamed. Just the amount of thought that's put into things that are happening in this movie, like the creepy popcorn, the way it's introduced, then how it's slowly revealed what it actually does, then how good this like split screen like De Palma-esque reveal of when the popcorn starts with the man, why they even use popcorn in the first place, right?
Right.
Like all those little details, the crazy straw they used to cannibalize their cotton candy victims, those details are better than they are in like Thor Dark World for the same level of this movie for some reason decided to just do a lot of stuff it didn't have to do well really well. Right?
Yeah, the movie definitely just keeps every opportunity it gets to lean into how crazy the movie is. It takes the opportunity. Some movies, they lean into it a little bit, but then they try to pump the brakes a little bit and go back to more regular kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
But every single twist and turn, like even with the every time what were the Ice Cream Brothers?
Terenzi Brothers
The
or
Terenzi
whatever.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Every time they came up on screen, I didn't know what they were gonna do.
And the characters didn't know. It felt like the movie didn't know what they were gonna do. It felt dangerous. They rolled up in Lover's Lane in a full Blair ice cream truck. I thought it was gonna be like Assault on Precinct 13. I thought people were gonna come out with guns because no one would just go up there looking like that, acting that way. Like that. What they were actually doing was more normal and crazier than what I had in my head was gonna happen. Right? Because the movie decided to like surprise. And then they were affiliated with the guy there, which we sort of got, like the main character, right? So he was the second main character.
Went to school with him, I think.
Right.
I would want the Terenzi brothers to like randomly show up at the end of like 1917, like you know what I mean, just like that big, the whistles are blowing, they're charging out of the trench, bombs are blowing up, and then you just see them driving their ice cream truck. Like, does anyone want to walk?
And they'd be fine.
Yeah,
they'd be burnt and injured, like whatever, but they'd be fine. They'd live. Like
somehow
amazing.
Somehow they would do it.
In 1970. All right, they handled other things though well. So is that what we're talking about? Because
handles the trope.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Some of the things that horror movies do.
Yeah, if they decide to do them.
There's usually some kind of cop or authority figure who immediately dismisses all of the main character's bullshit.
Yes. Think the sheriff in Friday 6.
Yes.
Right.
And in this film, they're like, hey, there's something bad happening. And the one cop is like, all right, let me come in. Let's ask some questions. And you're like, huh?
I was like, we got to rewind it. Is he just like, I sort of believe you about Clowns from Outer Space?
Tell me more.
Yeah. No one would do that. But they decided a good cop, bad cop themselves. Yeah. I've never seen that before. They were good cop, bad copping against each other the whole time. Crazy.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things where as soon as like they go into the police station, you have the main cop who's sort of like
Mooney, the mean one, or no, the protagonist, right?
Yeah, and then you have Mooney.
Yep.
And they immediately, almost without any warning, just start going down each other's throats. Like they were just like, yeah, you don't like the way I was trained. Well, that's too bad, brother. And the other guy's like, I'm gonna shoot everyone in this town in the head. And you're like, whoa, okay, Mooney, calm down. I think
that was crazy. But you're right though. He did listen to them, and she was really good at explaining their situation. So the thing is that he sort of like honored their story. And the weird thing was, it's like the movie knew that it wasn't supposed to do that and felt guilty and then punished itself. Because like Mooney was sitting on the shoulder of the movie like the devil in those cartoons. And he was like, go ahead and believe him, you idiot. I'm going to ruin your career. I'm going to make your family regret you were ever born.
He's like, write up that report and give it to the commissioner. You Freaking stupid idiot.
And then Mooney is apparently playing Tom Hardy's character in The Revenant because he is like this remorseless monster that I just did not expect. He had these weird, quirky ways. At some point in the movie, the station is getting bombarded by desperate calls from the townspeople asking for help because they're being like killed and tortured and mind gamed with beforehand by clowns. And Mooney's like, they flash to the sheriff's office, and he is in the weirdest pose I've ever seen a human being in while waiting for a phone to ring. It's like he's just like Sylvester in a cartoon waiting for a mouse to come in. And then the phone rings and he picks it up. He's like, Sheriff's Department. And they're like, clowns. And he's like, I know what you're doing.
They got you all. So you're all in on this prank.
Right. Then his working hypothesis is the entire town coordinated a prank against him randomly, which tells you his own assessment of his personality that he believed they might do that, right? And then he goes full Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now. I'm gonna burn the whole thing down. I'm gonna ignore every call for help. Insanity. That character, and then. You know what the clowns were doing, which is, you should talk about what some of your favorite kills, because they seem to like not just match the character of the clown design to who it was killing, but they were doing the amazing flair like someone would run off the wounds, and they would, instead of just chasing him, they'd make a balloon animal dog and have the dog track them and have it howl and like make wrong turns like that they didn't have to do, right? But when they killed Mooney, it got dark. It got really dark, and when it focused in his eyes, and it was like that Blade Runner dead glare coming out of his eyes when he's talking, it was horrifying. It was really, really good still.
Well, that was one of the cool things about the movie is, so we were sitting there watching it, and it was really silly. Like a lot of the kills were really silly, and I was like, okay, I totally get why everyone like loves this movie. 100%. I was sort of wondering, like, okay, is it? You know, as a horror fan, you kind of have to wonder: is there going to be anything that's actually scary?
Right.
You know, like sometimes there's horror movies where it's just kind of disturbing and it's not really scary, and that's totally fine. It's not a knock against the movie.
But some movies aren't satisfied with that, so they want to keep a little bit of an edge, like Tucker and Dale. Tucker and Dale is not a scary horror movie, but it has a wood chipper, so that's great.
Right. But what I liked about this movie was it really knew. It felt, to me at least, like it had like one shot. Eminem. It had one shot to like make that one scary thing. Yep. And if that's all they got, that's all they needed.
Yeah, the Mooney kill is its wood chipper, and it works.
So like, you know, there's like the little clown who goes up to the biker gang, and he's like, can I honk your horn on your bike? And he smashes it, you know, and then he comes back with boxing gloves on, and the noise all the aliens make are these like, you know, you can't really hear them. It's just like these high pitched, you know, squirrel squeaky kind of noises, and it totally works. Like, you know, I think the only time you can actually hear what the monster or the clowns say is when they go to the door of that one woman and they go pizza, which was great because if there's one word that you're gonna get from them being pizza, like that's awesome.
Perfect.
But the little clown comes back, knocks, you know, the biker's head off. So like, you know that they have a lot of strength. There's one scene that I thought was really fascinating when the guy's driving down the road and the clown just is on this invisible car, but it still has like headlights. And he runs him off the road, showing like the cool power,
incredible
that they have, and
that they're adapting to the scenario. Like other horror movies would just have them get really big and squash someone, or like have you run away from them, and when you turn the corner, they're standing there, and then they strangle you, whatever.
Right.
But this one was like, oh, you're gonna get away in a car. I got a car.
Right. And then you have, you know, the shadow puppet T-Rex, which is like I've seen that clip, and that is like iconic. I really like
that's the only clip I've seen.
But then there's before Mooney. There's a scene where they're at the was it Top Burger? They're at that burger joint, and one of the clowns is trying to lure a little girl out, and there's this. I loved this shot where he's like kind of hunched over, one hand's out, kind of like, you know, curling his finger, like, "Hey, come here." But behind his back, he has this giant hammer, and he's gonna bash her braids in, and it is like the creepiest shot. Yep. So that's when they start to, you know, they're having fun with it, but then they start to crank the heat up a little bit, and you're like, 100%. Oh wow, that's gonna get pretty
too
dark.
because it's like that metronomic finger waggle come to me movie's doing to the girl. He's not doing it fast or slow, and he doesn't seem like the attitude he has is, I'm trying this now, but if this doesn't work, I'll get you later. Like, it's creepy.
Right. So then they start to crank up the heat, and then you get the Mooney scene, which him trying to imprison the clown is great. It cuts to him. He's pissed at the whole town. The phones are ringing off the hook. He doesn't give a shit. And I actually love, he actually has a cigar in his mouth at the time. So he's just, smoking a stogie.
Yeah, he's Dr. Strangelove in it when Sergeant Ripper was.
And that's when he has that line I love. He was like, I went through Korea. I'm tired of this shit. Like he's over it. And then there's like one clown in green who is like the tall, very intimidating one. He goes into the police station and does the old gag of like, holds him some flowers and squirts him in his face.
Amazing.
That scene I really love because he's
and he handcuffs him and he's got
yeah, and then his hands disappear. They are just the endless amount of fuckery these clowns have.
Right, but then he obediently goes to jail.
Yeah, with the two punks who eventually get the cotton candy treatment.
Right.
So
because they're obeying their own like rules. It's almost like serial killers who only kill certain ways or only kill certain people. Like the handcuff thing, he got out of the handcuffs, but he's still under the authority of the guy for now. So he's like, okay, I'll go to jail.
Yeah, they're just they're literally toying with their food. So then Dave goes back to the police station after the whole town has been getting terrorized by clowns. And that is when the movie is finally like, okay, here's the scene. Dave goes in there, there's clown footprints everywhere, which after watching the movie, I totally get. Like, I'm probably going to look up a walkthrough of the Killer Clowns haunted house.
Right.
Yeah, because I almost guarantee I know what it's going to look like just from watching the movie. Because
it's going to have the honking doors first, which is amazing.
The set design and the production design in this movie is just so amazingly awesome. But Dave goes in there, there's clown footprints everywhere. And then that big, scary clown, he's so big and intimidating, does that slow turn around and Mooney's just sitting on his lap, because earlier in the film he was like, you're not gonna make me a dummy.
Yeah, you're not gonna make a dummy out of me.
Yeah.
And he literally does.
Flash forward.
That's like Pennywise stuff.
Yeah. That whole scene just, it's like you're having fun. Like, imagine you're eating cotton candy, and all of a sudden, you go to take a bite, and there's a big, knife in there or something. Like, that's what that scene feels like. Like, you're having fun until you're not, and that's
until you're not.
And that's the scene where like they finally kind of just put their foot down, and they're like, okay, these clowns are not to be messed with.
Right, exactly.
But they also show you their weakness right after that scene.
Well, and also, again, it's not like I'm not saying this movie is Citizen Kane, although it is the Citizen Kane of clown movies now to me. But like it even that choice was they knew that John Vernon, that actor, could pull that off.
Yeah,
because most people can't sit on a clown's lap, act like they're being puppeteered, and scare you. And I felt like for a second, I looked into his eyes and felt like he pulled me into the Event Horizon for a second. Like, whatever vibe was coming off of him, I did not like.
But you know what's also like, I was trying to think of like, why is it like that intense? And other than the fact that this dude's a dummy being controlled by a clown, but it's the fact that he has this like no nonsense, no one can control me attitude. But in that scene, he is no longer in control of his person.
Yep. Like,
he is just a void of everything he stood for earlier in the film.
But they painted his cheeks.
They did. They made him look like, he was from, Saw or something, like little Jigsaw or something.
Just horrifying. I loved it. I love every second of it.
What'd you think about how the clowns are defeated by popping their nose?
Great. It's great,
right? I don't. No problems here.
It led to the most amazing, where Dave, like the main guy, is like trying to shoot. It's a video game boss. He's trying to shoot the world's largest nose and missing, which makes me feel like Mooney was right about this guy all along.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong, but he wasn't right.
Right? Like put this guy in End of Watch, and he'd be dead in 14 seconds. Right? So yeah, no way. But anyway, yeah, I just love every step of it. That the way that they were defeated, the way the UFO was the tent, and how the tent / diamond operated, like All of that is incredible. Ed Wood would just put a circus tent on a string and thrown it through the air and filmed it.
Hope they caught
This
it.
movie was like, when it lands, it's going to make a hole. Why? What is the tent? Oh, the tent's just the tip of the iceberg. It's this. And then when you go inside the UFO, it looks like Forbidden Planet inside. All of a sudden, you're like total recalling it down the shaft of, doom. It's incredible.
What did you expect going into this movie?
See, I was trying to put my finger on the vibe, like when I went to see it. Like, all right, so it's gonna sound weird. This is totally wrong way to explain it, but whatever vibe I got from the Wicker Man remake is the 80s. I expected the 80s version of that vibe, like something just the bees and random insanity and just not architected this way. Like I was telling, so like, I just gotta say this because this movie just became a trivia question to me. This movie kills, quote unquote, 2 dogs. Mm-hmm. So you know how the cliche is, like if I posted on our Facebook page right now, like kill a human, I don't care, kill a dog, I'm out of the room. It would get like 10,000 likes before we were done with this episode because everyone feels that way. So you're not supposed to kill the dog. This movie kills 2. One, it gets in a net unless he lives later. I forget if he ever reappears, but maybe he does. I can't remember. But he goes in a net, and then we never see him again, as far as I remember. And do we see him again?
No.
And then so he's gone. but just like in the most Twilight Zone cartoony net movie kind of
other horror films, the character comes home and they see a pile of blood.
Yeah, they're John Wick in it. No, thank you. And then they kill another dog, but it's a balloon animal dog, and it's amazing how it dies. So this movie, not once or twice, breaks the cliche and pays no penalty because it does it right. It's incredible. Their choices they're doing are great.
This movie, is this total happy ending. Mm-hmm. Everyone,
and horror movies are not supposed to do this.
Everyone you want to live lives, mm-hmm. And even the I keep calling them the Ice Cream Brothers,
Terenzi Brothers.
Even the Terenzi Brothers, like last second, they Indiana Jones, what, 4? That's how they live. They put themselves in the freezer that got blown up in the alien spaceship.
Incredible.
Like everyone who lives at the end, it's just a happy ending. I mean, you don't know who gets the girl at the end, but I think. Probably Dave gets back. The other guy was kind of...
Well, Dave gets the Terenzi Brothers. He gets to go back there. Because, honestly, I'm not trying to make this too serious, but that is sort of the arc of it is that part of the Losers Club stays together and part of the Losers Club separates and becomes more adult. I mean, it's the Losers Club, right. Just killer clown style. It's all just insane gloriousness from the beginning where someone tries to take down the clowns at the beginning first kill scene and finds out that the tent is metallic. And goes ow, like Tom and Jerry style, to the end where they're all defeated, and you're calling this a happy ending, but to me it's not because it looked like all the clowns died and they were who I was rooting for. But thank God there's a sequel.
I was rooting for the clowns at first. Mm-hmm. At first I was like, yeah, you know what, just do your thing. Do your worst.
Because the people were just not making great decisions.
But towards the end, I was starting to root for.
You had to root for the ice cream.
I was rooting for the ice cream guys, man.
You had to root for Dave. Well, for sure.
The thing is they were so ridiculous. So there's a scene that I loved with the Terenzi Brothers, where their whole goal in this whole movie is just to get laid, and they're awful at it. Like they have 2 women with them in the ice cream truck, and the women are like, "You think we're just gonna give it up for you? Forget about it. We want to go home." So they're like, "Okay, we're not gonna score." But then later on in the movie, they fall into a ball pit in the spaceship, mm-hmm. And there's these 2 clowns with long hair, and one of them has these like balloon titties that just like blow up to this comical clown size. And I thought that was the end. I thought, yep. Okay, they're gonna kill him there.
Yep.
That they died as they lived,
yep.
Or wanted to live. Wanted to live.
Right.
But then later on, they crash through to save our characters, mm-hmm. in the ice cream truck. Mm-hmm. And when it cuts to they have these huge kiss marks all over their face. The fact that it's I'm telling you, every mm-hmm. turn this movie has, mm-hmm. where they're like, how are we going to play it? They slap each other and they go, we're going to do the most ridiculous goddamn thing, yep. You thought we shouldn't have done, and then we did it.
Right. And from the people who dude, Team America, this is what you expect, right? If you had told me you were making a killer clown movie and come back to it with a design, it wouldn't have been this, right? It would have been something way more Lovecrafty and way more like Art the Clown, like angular. Right. They made these guys Jabba the Hutt like style built, and it was more terrifying somehow and more fun at the same time. Also, just the way they moved was
it was very unsettling. So here's something interesting I wanted to bring up. The current Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie.
That's right.
So we with this run of How Low Can We Go, we wanted to do Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes,
and we got to rate it now.
That way we have variety. Interesting fact: this movie is actually 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, but. And this is what I thought was weird. I wanted to bring this up live on the podcast, see if you had any kind of gut reaction. If you don't, that's totally fine. A lot of the reviews, like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these were from the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's weird.
Right?
Right.
I mean, interesting to say the least.
I mean,
the one that was rotten was from like 2005.
Right. Well, part of our argument is that the aggregate sites are a joke, right? Like it's one piece of information in a sea of information at best is what they're doing for you. The divergence is so weird, right?
But it's weird. A movie from 1988 getting reviews that still count on.
Right. So like, but that's what I mean is every single one of these is like some kind of random. There might be some random explanation why that score is like 20% different than it should be. Right.
Right.
It could be that the movie suddenly got relevant and everyone started watching it. It's like when you go to YouTube videos and like everyone's here because of X. Like
yeah. Well, actually, one of the Steam, the program that I use that has all the games and stuff. When you go to look up reviews. It has like kind of like a baseline of all reviews, and it'll either be bad, mixed, or positive. But then above it, it has recent reviews,
right?
Because a lot of times, games come out, there's game-breaking glitches or bugs, and then they fix it, and then people go back. I kind of, and this is probably a lot of work because there's a bazillion movies out there. But I kind of wish Rotten Tomatoes had something like that. Like it would be really cool to see, like what were the reviews like when the movie came out, if they're able to get that, because granted you have to like get newspaper clippings.
Totally. And so like let's just for a second thought experiment this compare this to Wolfen, right?
Right.
Nobody talks about that movie anymore, right? There's probably not any recent reviews because unlike Killer Klowns, which gets juice from Fright Rags talking about
that's where I haven't seen it on my social media,
or if Joe Bob randomly picks it as something he'll show on something big on Shudder. It'll get a bump, right? So like, sometimes there's a reason why people will be revisiting movies, or they just remake it, right? So there's a whole celebration right before it comes out or whatever, and that who knows what's causing the kind of why the reviews are the way they are, but. This movie, let's just rate this because I'm making this 88% now, right? Like to me, this is exactly what you would want to accomplish if you handed filmmakers money, limitations, all kinds of blockers to why there's no way in hell this should work, a ridiculous premise, and they make something that horror fans are going to remember forever.
So you're going 88? 88? All right.
Solid 88. What do you go?
I am going to go with 85. I'm not far off.
I love it, dude.
The only thing that
what's the Blob 1988? Out of curiosity.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because I feel like this is an absolutely comparable experience to that. I think I like this better, which I would never have guessed. Going into it?
It's funny. The Blob is also 1988, same year. 62%.
Yeah, this is much better than the Blob now to me, which I never thought I'd say.
And we not randomly, but when we were talking about it after watching it last night, we also compared it to Life Force.
Yes.
And we like this better.
Yes.
And what about House? The last
way
movie
better. This is my favorite in the series right now.
Ooh.
Right? Like what else in this run of the series? What else is it's because of the divergence in expectations. This would probably be The only movie we've taken on so far that I probably expected less from would be Chud. This is my best experience of the series so far, right? Because
Cool
that's
stuff.
the thing is I never would have expected. My expectations for this were so low. It was like around the Chud level of this is going to be really cheap humor and then a lot of visual puns. And what else would it need to do?
Yeah.
To be
Totally.
legend. They're doing like so. Again, when you measure, let's put Jason in space. Right, is the kind of premise we're dealing with here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is even worse because you're just doing generic clowns. You don't have Jason to play with, right?
Right.
I mean, it's almost Plan 9.
Totally.
Matter of fact, Plan 9 probably had a better plot and premise than this. Like, this premise should never work. It should just be terrible fun, instant mystery science theater, etc. And instead, it's the best clown horror movie I've seen. So...
Oh,
I like it. Oh, watch this. Watch this. Watch me burn everyone's asses right now. Watch this. I like this better than It Chapter 2. Right?
you're not wrong. You are not wrong.
So this, I mean, think of the budget. Think of the cast. Think of what went into. Think of like the 3-year plan they must have had. Coming off of like whatever. And I'm not hating on whatever. I'm just saying I just like that this was more enjoyable to me from where I expected to be.
No, I get that. I agree. I'm gonna say about 90%. I agree 90%.
Mm-hmm.
Chud, for some reason, I just have a real soft
that's
spot
right.
for Daniel
Yeah.
Stern. I don't know what it is
That's
about
right.
that
No,
man.
that was pretty special too.
But I dig the hell out of that guy. But it's down to those two right now.
Right, and where's the flaw? Like, where's the? Not that it's a perfect movie, like whatever, but for the experience of it, like it was a little scarier than I needed to be, way more fun than I needed to be, way better music than we need to be, way better looking than I expected to be, way more interesting in terms of how they executed the kills than I thought they were going to pull off. I thought it was going to be like Wile E. Coyote humor for most of it, and it felt like that's what was going to happen, but it wasn't. It was like the way Beetlejuice had, it was walking the same line, right? And managed to be glorious instead of stupid, which is what should have happened. There was one moment where I realized I was watching like 5 people on a gravel path at probably like 1 a.m. probably, whatever. And they were trying to sell me that some epic confrontation was happening. And I knew it was just like 5 people in really dumb outfits,
Right.
like just doing this in a road. And then all of a sudden they pulled me right back in, and the moment was gone. And I thought this movie would be like 15 minutes of that feeling. And it was like almost no minutes of that feeling.
The Hollow Weekly group.
You nailed it again. Very pleased. Thank you for guiding. Nothing against Nightbreed. I'm sure that also would have
I still would love to
amazing.
check out Nightbreed at some point in time.
I mean, I've seen Nightbreed and loved it long ago and was looking forward to revisiting it. And who knows, like on some of these where we were torn on what we were going to watch, maybe we'll go back and do like a subscriber special. I mean,
that'd be
for
fun.
supporters, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're as big as a fan of cotton candy as I am, with or without the human remains inside, go ahead and give us a 5-star review and let us know what your take on the whole cotton candy situation is here. Because the thing is with Killer Clown, and I'm just gonna say this real quick. Even though it was a cocoon, it still looked delicious. Still looked delicious. So it's all right. So give us a review. Until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies. Talk to you guys next time. Bye.